Greetings everyone! Today I'm gonna do a developer commentary on Cracks in the Glass, a Thief 2 fan mission that I created a few years ago, and that was the first thing I've ever released. And I thought it would be interesting to go over the history of its making, my thought process behind some of the things I've done here, as well as, with the benefit of hindsight, what I think worked well, and what could have been done a bit better. I will go through it and get all the loot like I usually do, but that won't be the focus of my commentary today. And I also really enjoy listening to developer commentaries myself, so if this inspires at least one other fan mission author to do something similar, then I'd be really happy. So let's begin. And let me read out the briefing. Seems like the business has hit a low point again. I haven't had many jobs lately, and only a few of them ended up being lucrative. Naturally, I take any chance to earn some quick cash these days. An old contact of mine, Paolo, has offered me a job. Paolo owns an inn in Wayside, which he uses as a front for some shady business. He didn't give me any details, just told me to meet him at the usual place, the inn's cellar. I arrived during normal hours, but none of the visitors seemed to mind me. The first thing that was different from all my previous meetings with Paolo was that the cellar door was locked, with a note hanging nearby. No entry, not even for the bar staff. It seemed like he really didn't want any disturbance. Picking the lock was easy enough, but after I went down the stairs, Paolo wasn't there. Moreover, there was something strange about the cellar. Through the thick darkness, it almost seemed like the walls were moving. A note was laying in a spotlight. Meeting is off. An uneasy feeling came over me. I felt as if I was being set up. With my sword ready, I slowly went back up the staircase, which also seemed to have transformed somehow. However, the bar looked unchanged. Might be just my mind playing tricks on me, but I don't like this situation one bit. I better get back to my hideout as soon as possible. Okay, I will talk about the story in a bit more detail later, but for now we just have two objectives. Something is not right. Get back to your hideout, north of the warehouses. And you're a thief, not a murderer. Don't kill anyone. Right, let's make a real save and take a look at the map. Now the only map available in this mission is that of the starting area, so we are currently stationed right here near Paolo's inn, and we have to go to the hideout. And I'm actually gonna go here first because it makes sense to talk about what's just beyond this point as early as possible, and then I'll get back to the starting area after that. Although the first thing I actually want to talk about is this purple ambient light. I don't know how this made it into the final release of the mission. It was something I set from the first or the second day of building, because it was really easy to set up and I thought it looked interesting. And then I built the entire mission with it, and I kinda got used to it. And believe it or not, it was twice as intense at the time. I actually toned it down not long before release, but I probably should have nixed it altogether, because it does look kinda strange. And not in a good way, especially inside buildings.
Seeing things. It's never really anything.
So I'm actually gonna save right here, and then I'm gonna reload to this save.
What is this? But I saw something.
Let's get rid of this guy. So right now we're approaching this point right here. And this courtyard,
it's a long way up,
was the very first thing I've built for the mission. Now, at this point, I actually wasn't building the mission. I was just doodling, basically, and one day I wanted to create a fun climbing exercise. So I made this courtyard, and I added some things for the player to climb. And I really didn't plan for this to go any further. But when I was done with this, I added a similar courtyard, but put it on its side. And I thought this looks pretty neat. So then I added a whole upside down street here. And like I said, at this point I wasn't actually building the mission, I was just messing around, and at the time I was already working with Drumed for close to a year, but I never really had a good idea for an actual mission. I was just learning the engine, experimenting, making various mock-ups, and when I made this, I looked at it and went, well, hey, I could make a mission out of this. And so the idea was born, basically. I would make something like Constantine's Manor, but instead of a manor, we would have a city. But of course, just like in Constantine's Manor, you cannot throw the player into the weirdness right away. You need a starting area, so that's what I focused on next. Now I also want to talk a little bit about this courtyard, because like I said, I wanted to create a climbing exercise. Now, you may know that this mission doesn't have any rope arrows, and that's something I decided early on. And this was inspired by the Chalice of Souls, especially Mission 1 in that campaign. Now, if you played it, you know that Chalice of Souls does give you rope arrows, but most of the time in that mission, you spent jumping from balcony to balcony, or climbing a pipe, then another pipe, to get somewhere high. So it didn't rely on rope arrows that much. And when I first played it, that just really opened my eyes to how fluid and fun the movement in Thief can be. And I wanted to explore that concept in as much detail as I could. So that was the reason behind not giving the player any rope arrows. Now this actually is the biggest climb in the mission. There aren't anything like this later on. And this was just the proof of concept. Later on, when you have to get somewhere high, you just have to climb a crate or a pipe or a combination of the two.
Hello? Show yourself. Oh well, don't know what it
So
was.
I went back to building this starting area, and at this point the mission didn't have any story. And I'll circle back to this once we get to the actual hideout, because that's where the story actually kicks off.
Hello? Someone there?
Now this place is the first example of my obsession with unnecessary detail.
Hello?
So this right here is this place, factories, probably inaccessible.
Anyone there?
You could stack some objects maybe
Guess not.
to get over this wall, but that's an out-of-bounds area, you're not supposed to be there. However, if you make it over there, there are some crates stacked on the other side to help you get back. And also I room brushed it, so that entire area has proper sound propagation. That's something that present-day me would never do, because I just find it to be a waste of time.
Stand forth and be recognized. Hey, is someone there? Nothing there now. Just the wind, I guess. What was that noise?
Let's see, can I make it into this window without him seeing me? Probably not.
Nothing there now.
So this building was one of the earliest things I've added, and this was the very first interior in the mission.
Huh? What? Third time this shift. I gotta calm down.
So this guy has a key, which unlocks the front door, but also that door at the end of the corridor.
What's that?
And you may notice that the interiors look pretty sparse so far. I'll actually talk about it a bit later, because there is one interior in particular that showcases my early struggles. Now, here is another example of a detail that probably nobody notices. See, I turned on the light inside, and the window is lit as well. Now if I turn it off, it goes out here as well. I'm not the first one who did something like this. I know other authors have done this, and I always found this to be a nice detail. The client, Meredith J, claims that he used to own certain property and would like to seize it back. The item in question is a house near the shore. However, the client could not give us the exact location of the house or any directions on how to get there. Instead, he vividly described all his memories associated with the place. He promised to come back tomorrow with the details so that we can proceed. Note, must talk to Schreiber. Something about this Meredith doesn't seem right. So, there aren't many story-related readables in the mission, and those that are story-related you would be able to recognize right away. So, the rest of them are either just flavor text or references to various pieces of media I like or liked a few years ago. And I'm not gonna go over what's a reference to what, but if you recognize what this readable reference is, then I will say you have good taste in movies. Now, I'm also not gonna go into every single corner of the mission, because it will just take forever. Like that backyard. It looks nice, there is nothing of value there. And not really much for me to comment on.
What's that?
What I have something to say about is this area where I'm heading next. Because I feel strange about it. Okay, let me get rid of this guy. So, this street, the whole gimmick of it is that realistically it cannot exist. Because it's located right underneath this part of the starting section. And the whole idea was I wanted to see if I can put a sky texture on the top of a brush without it glitching out when there is some geometry above it. And it turns out you can do that. It looks okay. But I didn't stop there, and I decided to turn this into a whole section and just try to fool the players into thinking that it's somewhere to the side here, maybe, and not right underneath, which I guess I've succeeded at, but the problem with it is that it takes too long to get here. So this underpass takes, what, like half a minute to traverse, and there is nothing in it, and there is one more tunnel that leads into this area as well that's just as long. So, I don't know. Maybe I should have nixed it right away, but it felt like a waste to get rid of it later, and it still does. I think it came out pretty nice. Okay. There's also an example here of my approach to decoration. So, I'll be the first one to admit I'm not great at decorating places, especially when it comes to populating them with objects. So what I try to do is I would put little scenes like this where I imagine some kind of backstory. So you might refer to this as show, don't tell type of storytelling. So you could imagine that there were some guys here playing cards, One of them got a little angry, someone got hurt, and maybe they needed to heal up after that. So this helped me, because trying to decorate a place when you have no idea what it's supposed to be is just absolutely the worst. But it also made the mission more interesting, I think. And there are tons of scenes like this, but I'm not gonna go over every single one of them. It's just an example. Now, this door is locked and unpickable.
What's over there?
But you can get in there from the rooftop.
Not again. Guess it's
So there is a vent right there. Let me show you this one first. Now, inside this building, I have what's, I would say, is an unsuccessful patrol, because I wanted this room to have a challenge, so I put a guard there. I didn't want him to come out to this corridor,
Nothing
because I wanted this to be a safe place, so that you can gauge him. And at the time, I couldn't come up with anything better
What's that I see?
than just him making circles around the room. So this is not that interesting. If
Okay.
I remade this today,
nothing
I'd have him stop in front of the fireplace here, maybe overlooking the room, then maybe stop on
Nothing.
the other side as well.
I'm too tense.
And I've gotten better at creating interesting, sometimes
Strange.
interlocking patrols.
I thought there was something
But
there.
in this mission, there are tons of patrols like this. The
Someone
worst
there?
one are just guards walking up and down the street.
Okay. Calm down. There's nothing.
So that's also what makes this mission a little too easy. Because while I wasn't really going for a hardcore experience, I think it actually came out
Oh well. Back to work.
not as challenging as it should have been. It certainly could have been a bit more difficult to ghost, or to just play regularly, not even to ghost, because guards are easy to dispatch. So the ledger here, nothing too interesting, except you may notice that this guy sells stuff at higher prices than he buys the artifacts.
Who's over there?
something there.
What's that?
Probably just the wind.
Nothing now.
So this is another tunnel which is just here so that it can connect this area to the rest of the map.
Who's there? Hello?
This card always makes
I
a
don't
loop
see
here.
anything now.
I don't know why.
Nobody pushes Benny around.
Now here is an example of a detail I really like. If you're standing really close to this window, you can hear whispers coming from inside. That's the kind of detail I like to put in. It's a sound that you can only hear when you're in just the right spot. What I also wanted to encourage in the mission is the player leaning forward, or not just forward, but to the left and right as well. There are some pieces of loot which you can only see this way, and I'll show you an example of one pretty soon. So I was trying to encourage any type of movement that is possible in Thief, because I like the movement in Thief. I think it's one of the best parts about this game. So I tried to add as many situations as possible where you have to jump or climb or lean.
Nothing. I'm too tense.
I don't like the looks of that.
No, quiet now.
Friend, thy local mechanist seminary invites thee to the sermon of the ways of the builder. It is held on the morrow at a usual place, 52 Euro Street in Dayport. Be thou ever discreet, we are counting on thine attendance.
Probably just the wind.
Now here is also something interesting. Now, I really hate loud pipes in Thief, because when you land, you are often guaranteed to make noise and alert everybody around. So, this wasn't my idea. I actually took this from Godbreaker, and in that mission, Random Taffer, the author, took a sound from Thief 2X and then modified it so that it has the loudness of a softer material, and this way there is no risk of alerting any AIs accidentally. So that's good, and that's something I see more and more authors doing in their missions, so that's certainly a good trend. So here is an example of a loot piece which you can only see if you lean in here. It's a plate, it's only worth 10. So it's not a big deal if you miss it, but anytime you see an opening like this in this mission, be sure to lean into it. So yeah, here we also have the Trickster's Cookbook, which was
Thought I saw something.
used to make a healing potion.
There's some Spider-Man now. Okay.
Now, to circle back on this mission being kinda similar to Constantine's Manor, now if you remember in the Sword, the starting area looks pretty normal, but there is something off about it, right? And so far this place is not that strange. I mean, that whole section under this part shouldn't exist, but it's very subtle. So here is the first hint of the surreal nature of this mission, and it's also my favorite piece of architecture in this whole starting area.
Oh well.
So the warehouse we
Back to
cannot get
work.
into, because it's locked and unpickable. So what you have to do is use these crates here,
Didn't sound like rats this time.
and you jump in,
Gotta stay on my toes anyway.
and it's a crate maze, which makes no sense just by itself, but more interestingly, that's your way inside the warehouse. I thought this was pretty funny. Now, this is the interior I wanted to talk about. So, like I said, I'm not really good at decorating, and to not bash my head against the wall, basically, I decided pretty early on to set a rule for myself that I would decorate places just enough so that they are not boring, but nothing more than that. And mostly I succeeded at that, but this particular room I think still looks pretty empty. About the only interesting thing about it it is this fallen over cup, which used to be on a table, but that's it. So this place definitely could have used a bit more decoration. The floor above it is more interesting.
Can't a guy nap around here?
Now, here is a detail that I wanted to include more of into the mission. So here's a Victrola, you can throb it, and it'll play some music for you. There is no significance to this. It's just something that I thought would be just something unexpected and cool for the player to interact with. But unfortunately this fell by the wayside a little bit later on in development, because there aren't too many interesting interactable objects like this in the mission. So that's a bit of a shame.
Jordan, that you?
Maybe next time.
So we are done with the starting area now. This guy is on his way out of the little yard
saw
here,
something.
which is good.
Oh well. Don't know what it was. Wish someone would let me know what's going on. Never.
It's a long way up.
So here is one of the most difficult rooms in the mission to ghost.
Who's there? Not this time. Who's over there? Not as exciting as I thought.
Master the flute in 10 easy steps.
Gotta stay on my toes anyway. What's over there? Not this time. Probably just the sir checking up on things.
And the hideout is right here.
Home sweet home.
So we get a new objective. Someone's been here, the light is on, and there is a note on the table. See what it says. Garrett, I must be brief. What you are seeing is not a dream. You are in real danger and must act quickly. Not far from my hideout, there is a pagan-themed shop. You know the place. It is located in the middle of Crockett Park. Inside the shop, there is a certain item that will help you. You will know it when you see it. I could not stay here to help you, but I will arrive in the morning. Be here. Good luck, Keeper Andre. So, we get several new objectives. Get the Crockett Park southwest from a hideout and steal whatever the keepers want from the pagan-themed shop. Maybe it will shed some light on what's going on. Paolo must be connected to all this. Pay him a visit and see if he can answer a few questions. He lives just upriver from Montgomery Square, which is northwest from a hideout. Since it's not a dream, might as well grab some loot. Get 2100 worth of valuables. Return to your hideout once all your tasks are completed. Okay, so let's talk about the story. Now, like I said, the mission originally didn't have the story. The entire premise just boiled down to Garrett is hallucinating. But a few months later, I kinda got frustrated with it. I wanted to do something more interesting. So I came up with this whole really convoluted setup for how all this works, so that it's not a dream, like the note says. And I brought the keepers into it, because of course, when something strange is happening, the keepers are immediately involved. And the story kinda got a little out of hand. So I had to split the mission into two parts, and I'll talk about part 2, which is currently in development closer to the end of the video. But what this meant was I decided not to explain pretty much anything what's going on in the first mission and leave all that stuff for the second one. And this had some interesting results, because I had some people comment on the mission saying that it's really unclear what's going on, and as lame as it sounds, that's kind of the point. But I also had someone tell me that they didn't feel intrigued by what's going on, and that's more of a concern to me, because I did try to make it so that the player would become interested in the strange architecture and whatnot. So maybe I should have left some breadcrumbs at least for the player to follow, instead of not explaining anything. So in Garrett's hideout you can get some equipment, but let's move on. Another piece of loot here, which you can see like this. Some notes. The building was robbed again, third time this year. Mr. Jackson, who lived in apartment 2, claims that not only all the gold was stolen from his footlocker, but also the gem he had hidden behind the bookshelf. Soon nobody will want to live here. At least I have regulars like Mr. Garrett. I've had a lot of fun making this area that transforms into an upside-down corridor. Isaac, other tenants are complaining about the stench coming from your apartment. Do something about it immediately, landlord. Well, you can find Isaac in a chest there. Here we go, so let me make a real save here. Now, the area beyond the hideout can be a little bit tricky to talk about because there is no map for it, but I'll try to do my best. And basically it's laid out like a big loop. If you go this way, you will eventually come out of that tunnel and vice versa. And I want to talk more in detail about how it's laid out. So I'm just gonna skip a bit of content right now and get to an area that showcases what I was trying to do with this loop, and then I'll get back to this save and explore everything I missed. So let's just get past everything here. I want to show you this area just as a point of reference. So here we have the warehouse, the castle. Just keep this in mind for a few minutes.
Nobody better be tougher.
so let me explain. Now, this big loop beyond the hideout, it's not an unbroken city. It's comprised of smaller sections, like this one and the one I showed you before, which are connected with what I call transitional areas, and the only way to get from section to section is through those areas. So this, for example, is one of those areas. And some of them look pretty organic, like this attic here. You wouldn't really think it's just an in-between place, but some of them are more blatant, and I'll show you an example of that. And each section then, I wanted to make something like this. So you'd have the main path, which is usually the street, which is lit and has the biggest amount of guards, and then have several side paths. So there is this walkway here, there is the building. So a bit of non-linearity for how to deal with each
Who's over there?
of the sections. And building the mission like this is a really old school technique. It was used in Assassins, but these days with New Dark there is no reason to build this way. It's better to just make a big open space and then populate it with buildings, rather than creating these smaller sections and then connecting them. But I guess I was trying to be cautious and to play it safe, because I didn't want to get anywhere close to any of the Dromed limits, so I tried to avoid any expansive vistas and stuff like that. But I don't use this technique anymore. Now, to circle back on the platforming in the mission, I've actually spent quite a bit of time testing all the jumps to make sure that they are, if not easy, at least consistent. And I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, because I know all too well that platforming in Thief can be really finicky, and I didn't want the challenge in the mission to come from failing jumps over and over. So like I said, the mission is a bit too easy when it comes to the actual stealth encounters, but I'm really glad that I tested every jump a bunch of times to make sure that they are not impossible to mess up, but difficult. So let's get here, which is probably the worst looking place in the whole mission. But there is one interesting bit about it, which is the first secret in the mission. So this door emanates a buzz, which should clue you in that it's not really a door, and you can get through it. Now that particular sound that you can hear is the quintessential transitional sound. It was used quite a bit in Thief Gold, between areas with two different ambient loops. But even if you never paid attention to that, you should still notice just a sound coming from the door. But I will say that this is the secret that most people miss. And inside each secret there is a piece of loot worth 150, and sometimes an expensive piece of equipment.
What's that I see? Well, seems clear.
Now this mansion this was a major stumbling block for me. I must have spent like 2 months on it, and I just couldn't figure out how to decorate it, and still it looks not that great, but I just couldn't spend any more time on it. At least the patrols here are interesting. We have guards who stop and overlook some rooms, so they are somewhat of a challenge to sneak around. Unfortunately, they do not flip the lights back on. That's something I should have added. How to make a parties memorable, a practical guide. Also, let me show you something here. So this room ended up okay, I guess. Maybe could have been more messy. But here is another example of my love to detail. So if you know how the objects in the Dark Engine work, you can only have them shaped like cubes or spheres. So the stable, for example, it's just a big cube, so if you shoot a rope into it like this, it's gonna stick into it, because it extends all the way to the ground. So when I put this table on the side, I couldn't get anywhere close to it like this, so I actually made only the tabletop solid, and then I added an invisible object with physics to simulate the legs. I don't know how many people noticed it, or maybe they just thought that this is how it's supposed to be.
What was that noise? Seems peaceful enough now. Odd noise.
There is a secret that's not actually secret, because it's really obvious. From either the cold storage or from this room. Especially with the light on, the switch is really obvious and it's not tiny. Easy to see. But we also don't have to use that passage. Here you can really see how the purple ambient light really looks strange inside the buildings. For the next party. Find that foreman person again. The mansion is still not presentable enough. Yes, I agree. Buy more food and drink. Replace the servants. How did we run out of fish so quickly again?
What's there?
Okay, let's see if I can sneak out of here. This crane also has proportions that are made out of smaller objects. So normally you wouldn't be able to do this, but I made it so you can run up it like this. There is no reason to do it, but you can. Not much to say about this part of the city otherwise, but I guess it kinda brings up a point, because I did say that this mission is supposed to be kinda like Constantine's Manor, right? But
What's there?
in that mission, once you get into the surreal parts, it only gets stranger and stranger. And this mission doesn't really do that. Now, this was how I envisioned it from the start, so I never planned for it to go completely bonkers. I wanted to have a mostly normal looking city with some strange neighborhoods, but I did get a few comments saying that I missed an opportunity here, and yeah, I agree with that. Because I could have gone a little crazier, but this mission would be completely different then. So, it's not something that crossed my mind as I was building it, but...
Alright, who's making the rocket? Guess it was nothing. Cook said we might get stew today. With real
So right now I'm gonna get to a transitional area that's obviously there just so that it connects two sections of the loop.
Hello? Someone there? Nothing
Which is
here now.
this underpass here.
Nothing making noise now.
But here we have the first strange neighborhood. Is this space park. Now, I like how it turned out, but I think it could have been better,
Maybe next time.
because
See
what I think is missing here is any kind of elevation difference. It certainly could have been more interesting, so I could have placed these platforms at different heights maybe, not have as many passages in between them. Maybe I'll get a chance to do something more interesting with it, as I'll talk closer to the end of the video.
It must have been nothing.
Bobby, I know about the circuitry problems, and yes, I'm working on it. Don't worry, I'll fix the issue in a few days.
Something there. Seeing things. Probably just the wind.
So now we're getting to the area I showed you to begin with. And this I thought was pretty clever. Of course, Thief doesn't have realistic physics, but the board wouldn't make sense on its own, so I propped it up with a crate. And that's just here so that it's easier to get into this window, because I didn't want to place a pipe underneath, because I already have that on this side. And I guess this brings up a point that a lot of the pipes or crates in the mission exist solely for the player. Right? Because like I said, I didn't want the challenge in the mission to come from platforming, so I tried to make everything as accessible as possible. And it does come off as a little video gamey, but I think it's a better option than not have those pipes and stuff, because it's still possible to make those jumps, it would be just much harder.
Jordan.
But, of course,
you?
the best option... I'm gonna get caught here. Oh, that's not good. The best option, of course, is
well.
to
Back to work.
have platforming easy, but make those pipes and stuff look like they actually belong there. So I think I got a little bit better at it. I still occasionally put pipes that are there just for the player to traverse, but they look more organic. So we've met our loot goal.
Over there. I saw something.
This building I like. It's not two in a building, it's just a wall with windows through which you can see the next section, just upside down. So let's get there. And we're going for a bit of a swim here. So here we have Montgomery Square, upside down, but this should give you a clue that Paolo's place is nearby, so because there is no map I did include directions like northwest or southwest. I don't know how useful they were, hopefully, but this is much better to add a signpost in. And from here it's really obvious where you have to go, hopefully. But I had a few players during beta testing miss this place, so I actually highlighted this hole with a pulsating light here, so that it's more visible, and I also added this water arrow specifically to pull the player in, so that they hopefully notice the tunnel. And I've said that it's upriver from Montgomery Square, so it's you go up from the river. That's my sense of humor in a nutshell. Now, here I try to do a bit of a creepy atmosphere. So you come in, you hear a noise from behind the door. You go in, it opens slowly, but there is nothing out of the ordinary here, just a storage. And we read this. Paolo, with this letter you'll find a box. Tomorrow you will arrange a meeting with Garrett 3 days from now in your inn's basement. However, you won't be there. You'll also make sure that nobody except Garrett goes into that basement that day. Then you'll just forget about this little affair. You will comply. Otherwise, look in the box.
I have a bad feeling about this.
So, this completes this objective. And to circle back on the story and how I don't explain anything, I actually had one question that I can answer here, and that was, what was in the box? And I can answer that. It doesn't matter what was in the box. What matters is that it was something important to Paolo, probably something personal, that made him comply with this demand, and there is nothing more to it. So it's just a platform for the player's imagination to think for themselves what it could have been. But ultimately it doesn't matter. here we're coming up on a section that was the last thing I made. It's the furthest one from the hideout, and I also built this whole section in just a week. So for reference, every other section took me a month or more, and this is also the biggest one. So I guess I was just ready to be done with the mission, but I don't think it came out bad. I think it's one of the better sections actually. So this will just take us back to the previous one.
Better be down around down here. Must be one of them grubbers again.
So this, I think, has a good number of people in the streets
Who's there?
to make it a decent challenge.
Hello?
But it also has one of my favorite bits in the entire mission, which I'm gonna show you right now.
I guess it was nothing.
That guy has a purse, but it's difficult to get to him from this side, so we're gonna have to go around the building.
What's that?
Ain't the guy nap around here?
Probably just the sun.
Oh, well.
Checking up on things.
buildings make too much noise.
So deliveries to the basement only. This is just here to let you know that there is a delivery entrance, which is right here. So here we have the highlight of this section. Roderick. I've told the boss about the flooding, but he wouldn't care. Until the leakage is fixed, you'll have to patrol with all that water in the basement, I'm afraid. Ben. And
Hello?
yeah, this is water. And I specifically put this guard here to let the player know that it's safe
Sure, it was nothing.
to get into this. It was funny actually seeing people avoid the lava, quote unquote. And once you get past this,
Wonder what that noise was.
we get here. Thou, my friend, art on the threshold of the tomb of Sir Adonk. As per his last will, his most treasured possession is kept here ready to be taken only by the most worthy knight. 3 tests await thee inside. Enter should thou dare, but be prepared for the challenge of thy lifetime. So the idea here was to create the most absurd tests possible. And I think I've succeeded at that. So the first one is the test of choice. Have several ways to go, but there are no traps or triggers or anything. It doesn't matter which way you go, which it was funny seeing streamers trying to figure out which was the correct way. So then you have the test of curiosity. Here's a big red button and a bunch of emitters. I guess it doesn't take much to put 2 and 2 together, but if you do this, you have failed the test of curiosity. And then finally the ultimate challenge, the test of patience, because this door just takes forever to lockpick. But at least there is some motivating music for you. There is a point to all this, however. Thou art truly worthy, so enter now and receive thy reward. So in here we have Sir Adonk's legacy. Whoever thou art, if thou art reading this, thou hast conquered my most devious tests. For that I grant thee the treasure of knowledge, for there is nothing more precious. Now heed my advice carefully. Thine ears might lead thee to a place thine eyes might not. What an object seems is not always what it is. And lastly, be thou not afraid to take the leap of faith. Go now, and may my last words bring thee luck. So this is a hint to how you can find all 3 secrets in the mission. And this one I already showed you. Tiny ears might lead you to a place tiny eyes might not, so that was the buzz coming from the door. And the last secret is in
Wasn't
this
expecting
room.
that.
So what I was banking on here is that by the time the player gets through this, they would be so distracted by the absurdity of this whole section that they would forget that lava is actually not lava. And that's what the leap of faith refers to. So if you jump in here, you can get a big ruby. It's kinda nice that the semi-serious nature of this mission allowed me to put in sections like this without it feeling too out of place, I think.
Saw something there.
It's exciting as a
Who's there? Hello?
Seeing things.
So up here we should be safe.
Oh well.
Now here is one of the ways you can get to the next section. But I'm gonna use a different route. I'm just gonna show you this, because I think this is kinda interesting. This was inspired by Half-Life, this piece of machinery. And I guess the idea is that whatever the energy the collector towers on the rooftop are gathering is then being converted into electricity here. So this is the next section. It's great that the technology in the Thief universe is so up to interpretation that you can create any kind of strange machine and it wouldn't look out of place. Now this room, I like how it turned out. It's not hyper detailed, but it's pleasing to look at. So I actually think I got better at creating interiors the further in I went. And today actually I think my interiors are better than the outsides of the buildings I make. Which still remain pretty basic.
Yes? What?
Nothing? So here, by the way, is also one tiny thing I did. I made every tray unfrabbable, because it's really frustrating when you try to take something from the tray and Garrett just keeps highlighting the tray instead. Just a small quality of life improvement.
Oh, the air is getting so filthy lately.
So let's get that purse now.
Nothing now. Over there.
So this is another somewhat obvious transitional area. Not as bad as that one I showed you previously, but probably could have been more interesting. And here we have Crockett Park. So that's where the relic is supposed to be. But I guess it's difficult to miss this. It kind of looks like an important place. Oh, that archer actually had a purse. Give me that. So let's see what up here. The Trickster's Herbs, Healing Potion, Plumsies, The Wisdom of the Woods, volumes 1 through 3. And this is what you're looking for. So I hope this would be a little eerie,
Now to be on my
because it
way.
doesn't make sense for the plaque to say that, and who left it here? Who knows? But this completes this objective, so whatever this strange crystal is what the keepers want. Now we just have to get back.
Seeing things.
There's another nice looking apartment.
Maybe next
I like
time.
how this turned
Hello?
out. Here we have some musical instruments and a view from the end of the world, Deus Ex Machina, Redeemer, and Overworld. So, if you recognize what that's a reference to, then you have great taste in music. Okay, good. This guy is moving away from here. That's the way to the next area, but this is a more interesting one. And I also made this door unfrappable just to force the player to mantle this. So trying to force mantling in any way possible. So this manor is interesting.
Thought I saw something.
G, I have a job for you. According to my sources, Lord Bugsby has come into the possession of the Horn of Quintus. I don't mean one of those many replicas, I mean the real one. He apparently had it inspected, and then bragged about that during a recent ball. The same ball during which he also mentioned that the horn is indeed deviously hidden in his mansion. Surely it won't be a problem for you, right? Bugsby is visiting the opera tonight, so break into his place and steal the horn for me. Please use some stealth this time. If Bugsby comes home and finds his entire staff unconscious, we won't be able to frame one of his own guards. You know who.
Guess it was nothing.
So here we have the third secret. See, I don't think I can get past him here. So the third secret, what you should do to get it, is flip this vase, and it opens the painting with the horn and invisibility potion. So in Sir Adon's Legacy, this is referred to as what an object is, or what an object seems, is not always what it is. So that's a secret that almost everybody finds, and sometimes even accidentally. But this is not how it used to be at the beginning, because what I initially wanted is to have it openable with a vase, just like it is now, but I also wanted to add several hidden switches, like one in the window, one in the fireplace, one behind the statue there, and I thought that the player would be so distracted by those switches, maybe trying to figure out the correct order to flip them in, that they wouldn't notice the vase. But that didn't even make it to the beta testing stage, because I thought it was just too evil to do that, and I still think it would have been too evil. Maybe it would have made the secret more interesting, but I decided to get rid of that. Now over this way is a place I also had a ton of fun making. It's a completely mirrored room, but I also mirrored this entire courtyard. So here it's on this side, and here it is on the other side. And here is the pinnacle of my obsession with detail. So remember, I told you that the lights inside the buildings affect how the exteriors look. So I turned the light off in that room, and you see the window is unlit. And it's also unlit on this side. And you can probably guess where I'm going with this. So I'm gonna go and turn the light back on in this room. See, the window is now lit. And that window is also lit. I'm sure nobody ever noticed that. But I don't care. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time to pick this lock.
Be recognized.
Maybe.
Someone there.
Oh, nice. So the door opens inwards, of course, because it's annoying when they open in your face. So here we can see the next area. Gonna get there in just a little bit. You can do that through that coal cellar, but this is a better way. This place is a decent challenge, I think. It's supposed to be a bank. I don't know, probably looks like a generic building, but I put that Bafford banner with a big B, because I thought it looked appropriate. And this corridor is too long for its own good, especially since there is nothing on that side. It's just here to be symmetrical. And this was the first thing I came up with when I decided that I'm actually gonna make a surreal city mission. So I kinda had Inception at the back of my mind when I tried to think of surreal architecture, and this is directly inspired by that. So I took that courtyard I already made and put sideways, and I decided I can also bend it like this. But this is the only thing I actually took from that movie. And more interestingly, is here we have a pirate hideout, which is also flooded, because one day I decided I wanna make a pirate hideout, and like I said, I can put it into this mission without it feeling too out of place. So that's what I did. I think it's a nice touch that torches are burning underwater. And this place is also probably the most detailed in this entire mission. There are just tons of objects here, by my standards. And of course, what's a pirate hideout without a big treasure chest? I think it's a nice use of lockpicks here, because you have a limited air supply to pick it. So this way you can get to the cave system, which I'll show you later. I'm gonna get there in a different way. There is also a readable here. Captain's log of Captain Stanley the Brave. First day on the new ship. This is truly the greatest vessel in these seas, and I'm the captain. This will be a wonderful journey. While the ship is terrific, I can't say the same for the crew. The first one is a woman. Not a common crew member, but I'm an open-minded man. The second one is a dead guy, however. Wonder what good he'll be around here. Well, I guess he'll be more help than the third one, who's literally just a talking head. Unbelievable, she prefers the company of those two imbeciles and not mine. I am the captain, and yet she doesn't desire me. How can this be?
Hello? Anyone there?
Is that you, Kevo?
So here is the
Who's
last
there?
piece of loot in the mission. The
Thought I
first
saw something.
on that
No will.
maid.
This was nothing.
What's that?
So you can't get into that room, so you have to get it like this. And there we go.
That's odd.
3600.
Must be getting sleepy.
That's all the loot in the mission. Now here is also a place where I use the sound with a really low radius. So here we have these giant boilers, and if you get just close enough, you can hear boiling water. And this is the other way to get into the cave system. And then this takes us back to where we started. So, once you're done with your objectives, this scroll will appear here, and down you go. So this reveals a hole in the floor, and that's basically the end of the mission. So this is just a cliffhanger for mission 2. So, I promised to talk about mission 2 a little bit. So, it's in the works. I'm more than half done with it, so it's definitely coming, but I'm not sure when, because this last year I've done almost nothing on it. I would work for a week and then not do anything for 3 months. Maybe I'll have it finished this year, who knows, but I am determined to finish it. And I will say up front that in mission 2 the broad strokes of the story will become more apparent, but I won't explain everything just in a clear way. So, it took me 57 minutes and 44 seconds to complete it. I found all the loot, 3600, picked 16 pockets, 21 locks, and found all 3 secrets. So, I I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was interesting, whether you're a player or a mission maker. So thank you for watching, and next time I'll be back to more of my usual ghosting. I want to make a recording of the Scarlet Cascabel. So I hope to see you all then, and for now, take care.